The Triple Secret. A story of a billionaire's betrayal and a teacher's fierce redemption. Get ready for a story that proves the past never truly stays buried. This is a high-octane drama about a woman who was brutally rejected, raising 3 identical secrets, and the moment she decides to crash a society wedding to demand the truth. Before we reveal this scandalous secret, please hit the like button right now. When you like this video, you tell the algorithm this story is worth sharing, and it helps us bring you more explosive tales of love and betrayal. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. The Golden Invitation. The morning had started like so many others in the life of Sofia Ramirez. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the small kitchen of her home in Austin, Texas, and the laughter of her triplets, 3 miniature orchestras of joy, reverberated through the house. 3 identical pairs of amber eyes reflected the sunlight streaming through the window, and every time she looked at them, she saw the ghost of a man she once loved with everything she had. As she folded school uniforms and packed lunchboxes, a knock at the door froze her instantly. She wasn't expecting visitors. When she opened it, she found a messenger in a black suit, holding a beige envelope with gold detailing, the kind of stationery only the ultra-rich use to announce world-stopping parties. "For Ms. Sofia Ramirez," the messenger stated, without even looking up. He handed it over and left. With trembling fingers, she opened the envelope. Her heart nearly stopped as she read the name stamped in gold ink. "Ethan Stone and Penelope Hayes request the honor of your presence at their sacred union." The world seemed to shrink around her. The floor, once so solid, turned to quicksand. Ethan. That name she had spent a decade trying to bury. The very man who promised her the world beneath a sycamore tree and vanished as if their love were dust. She sat at the table, the invitation shaking in her hands. Her eyes no longer saw the letters. Memories exploded, the scent of his skin, the warmth of the old barn where they exchanged promises, the sweet taste of their first kiss, and then the silence, the abandonment, the humiliation. She never told him the truth. She never had a chance. Ethan's mother, cruel as ice, had thrown her off the ranch and threatened her family. Pregnant, alone, Sofia had to rebuild her life with the strength known only to rejected women. She graduated, became a beloved teacher, and raised 3 beautiful, kind, and vibrant sons. The fruits of a love no one believed in. But now this man wanted her to watch him marry someone else. Why? For revenge? Out of curiosity? Or perhaps to rub it in her face that he was happy without her? Sofia felt the pain slowly morph into something warmer, fiercer. Rage, pride, and a spark of courage. She looked at the triplets playing with toy cars on the living room floor. "They have a right to know," she whispered to herself. "And he has a duty to look them in the eye." Sofia rose with the same resolve with which she had held her life together for 12 years. She took the envelope from the table and tucked it into her purse. "We're going to Dallas, my loves. Mommy has a wedding to attend." Call to action. Welcome to the Narratives and Memoirs channel. First things first, please leave your like. That way, YouTube will know our content is valuable and show it to more people. The night of decisions, that night, Sofia did not sleep. She sat on the living room sofa, wrapped in silence, the dim light of a lamp illuminating the invitation on the table. The city slept outside, but inside her, the past was wide awake, furious, confused, and pulsating. The name Ethan echoed like a forgotten song, painfully familiar once again. In the next room, her 3 sons slept soundly. Liam, Elijah, and Noah, 3 hearts beating outside Sofia's chest. They were identical on the outside, but distinct within. Liam was the most sensitive, Elijah the most curious, and Noah the most mischievous. And none of them knew who their father was. When do I tell them? Will they ever forgive me for not telling them sooner? She whispered into the void, her eyes filled with tears. She had always promised herself she would only reveal the truth when she was certain Ethan posed no emotional danger to the boys. But now, everything was out of control. Going to Dallas was like tearing open a wound that had taken years to heal. Only now, it wasn't just about her. It was about them. The next morning, she packed her bags with a heavy heart. She tried to pretend it was just a little vacation trip. The boys were excited, bouncing all over the house, stuffing toys, cars, and books into their colorful backpacks, laughing, unaware they were about to meet a man who was, biologically, already a part of them. "Where are we going, Mom?" asked Liam, his gaze always gentle. Sophia knelt and pulled all three close. "We're going to see the city where Mom grew up, and maybe reconnect with some people from the past." She took a deep breath. For a moment, she thought of telling them the truth. But how? How to explain a love that turned into abandonment? How to tell them that their dad might not even want them? It wasn't fair to give them hope about a man who might have no heart. "Will there be a pool?" Noah interrupted, laughing. "And ice cream?" Elijah added. Sophia smiled, hiding the tremor in her eyes. "There will be that, and much more, my loves." On the drive toward Dallas, the sky was overcast, as if the universe reflected her feelings. Every mile driven was a step closer to a past Sophia had sworn never to revisit. And she had no idea that by crossing the gates of the Stone family estate, she would not only reveal her own secrets, but also those of the Stones themselves. Secrets that could either turn her life upside down or set her free to forever. The Stone Empire. The Stone Mansion stood atop a hill in Dallas, surrounded by meticulously manicured gardens and protected by high gates and discreet cameras. The empire the family had built over generations was now in the hands of Ethan Stone, the heir who had learned from a young age to hide his feelings and prioritize power. Sitting behind a massive mahogany desk in his office, Ethan stared at a painting on the wall, a portrait of him as a young man next to his late father. He had everything: money, prestige, control of companies, a feared last name. But the look in the photo said more than any speech. There, he still smiled with truth. Today, his smile was pure protocol. On his phone screen, Penelope Hayes was sending anxious messages about party details, vendors, and public relations. The wedding wasn't for love. It was an alliance between two influential families, sealed with champagne toasts and contractual clauses. Penelope knew it. Ethan did too. Neither of them cared, or at least, they pretended not to care. But something in Ethan was restless. Since sending the invitation to Sophia, out of impulse, anger, or perhaps a disguised nostalgia, he felt a gnawing unease. Why did she still matter so much? Why did her name still burn like an ember beneath his skin? It was Penelope who had found an old photo of Sophia online, in a report about a public school in rural Texas. "Looks like your ex became a school teacher. A noble choice," she'd said with irony. Ethan didn't respond. He merely requested her name be added to the guest list. "Invite her," he told the organizer, "for formality." But it wasn't formality. It was something darker. He wanted her to see what he had become: the empire, the woman by his side, the life that would have been hers if she had stayed. Only, he didn't know the truth. He believed Sophia had left him. No one ever told him she was forced to go. He stood up, walked to the bar, poured himself a whiskey, and watched the sunset through the panoramic window. The landscape was beautiful, golden, and vast, and he felt small against it. The sound of footsteps in the hallway alerted him. It was Mrs. Sterling, his mother, always impeccable, always controlling. "Everything is ready for the gala dinner," she said dryly. "And I expect you to maintain focus. The Hayes family is strategic for our businesses." "Of course," he replied, the automated response. But as he turned back to the glass, something was stirring within him, a feeling he couldn't name. He didn't know it yet, but the eyes he had been searching for all these years were just hours away. And they weren't coming alone with memories. They were coming with 3 little living mirrors of the truth. The unveiling. The ballroom was decorated like a modern fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers reflected golden light onto finely set tables. Important guests circulated with glasses in hand and rehearsed smiles on their faces. Social press photographers were everywhere. The pre-wedding reception for Ethan Stone and Penelope Hayes was the event of the year. But all of it felt artificial, like a play whose script no one truly felt. Penelope posed for photos, laughing with high society friends. Ethan stood near the bar, looking at his watch, as if waiting for something, or someone. And then, the doors opened. Silence. A dense, almost reverent silence. All eyes turned toward the entrance, and there was Sophia. She wore a simple, elegantly cut navy dress that highlighted the quiet strength of her posture. Her brown hair fell in soft waves, and her eyes... her eyes were serene, but sharp as ancient blades. But it wasn't her who caused the real impact. It was the 3 boys at her side. Liam, Elijah, and Noah walked around her, dressed in light suits, their faces serious and curious. They were a living copy of Ethan as a young man. It was impossible not to notice, impossible not to compare. A murmur spread through the room like wildfire on dry straw. Ethan froze. The glass almost slipped from his hand. His heart hammered. His eyes, which rarely showed emotion in recent years, now trembled. He didn't know what was more overwhelming, seeing Sophia after so many years, or seeing those small faces that seemed to silently scream. "We are a part of you." Penelope compressed her lips, feeling the ice of humiliation crawl up her back. Mrs. Sterling, in a corner of the room, turned pale as marble. The past, which she had worked so hard to bury, had just walked in through the front door. Sophia walked steadily, her gaze unwavering. Every step was a silent response to the pain she had suffered, the injustice she had swallowed for years. She wasn't there to beg for anything. She was there to show she survived, and that she didn't come alone. When she stopped in front of Ethan, time seemed to stand still. The two stared at each other for long seconds, as if an entire lifetime passed between them without words, only the furious pounding of 2 still wounded hearts. "Ethan," she said, with a slight nod of her head. "Sophia," he replied, swallowing hard. "These are my sons." She said no more, offered no explanation, no justification. Their presence said it all. The room, once loud with fake laughter and vain toasts, was now in absolute silence. The words, "These are my sons," resonated in Ethan's mind like thunder in a cathedral. His eyes darted from the boys' faces to Sophia's, searching for a denial, a relief, a lie. Anything that would say it's not what it looks like. But it was. It was exactly what it looked like. Interactive question. Sophia has made her entrance. If you were Penelope, the fiancée, what would be your immediate, most calculated move in this social and financial showdown? Comment below. The father's fury. He slowly backed away, stunned, guiding Sophia toward a side lounge, away from the stairs. The children stayed with a kind waiter, under the watchful care of Elijah, always the most responsible of the 3. As soon as the door closed behind them, Ethan turned, his expression a mix of rage, disbelief, and something deeper, pain. "Are they mine?" he asked in a low, tense voice, as if each word were a glass cup about to shatter. Sophia did not back down. She looked him straight in the eyes, holding the weight of 1,000 lonely nights, her children's fevers, the silent birthdays, the questions she could never answer. Yes, they are yours. Why didn't you tell me? He exploded, stepping forward. You had 3 children of mine and hid it from me. I went 12 years without knowing I was a father. 12 years, Sophia. She felt her throat constrict, but she did not cry. Not here. Not for him. Do you think I chose this? You disappeared. You didn't answer. You didn't respond. Your mother threw me off the ranch like garbage. I had no choice. The name, your mother, hit him like a punch. For a moment, Ethan seemed to waver. He knew Mrs. Sterling was controlling, cold. But would she go that far? My mother threw you out. That's impossible. She never told me anything. Of course she didn't tell you, or let you know. I tried. I wrote letters. I called. I went all the way there, pregnant. She had me escorted out like a thief. I was humiliated. Ethan! Sophia's voice trembled, but her stance remained firm. He brought a hand to his mouth, running his fingers over his lips, trying to process. The ground seemed to sink beneath his feet. An entire segment of his life had been built on a lie, or worse, on a cruel omission. Why did you come now? He asked, softer. Sophia took a deep breath. It took her a few seconds to reply. Why did you send me an invitation? And, because they have the right to know where they come from. And you have the right to look them in the eyes and decide who you want to be from now on. Those words pierced Ethan's pride like sharp arrows. For the first time in years, he had no comeback, only questions, and a regret that was beginning to grow within him like a weed. But he didn't know the whole truth yet. He still didn't know that his mother was hiding more than letters, nor that his fiancée had plans that went far beyond a wedding. The letter in the closet, the night fell over Dallas with a clear, starry sky. But Ethan's heart was far from calm. After the confrontation with Sophia, he went up to his suite and, for the first time in years, opened the old wooden box hidden deep in his closet. Inside, he kept memories he had tried to bury, faded photos, scribbled love notes, and a blue scarf she had left the last time they met. His fingers touched a particular photograph, the two of them at 18, riding a horse, laughing, covered in dust, but with looks that said everything. The past returned then, like a whirlwind. Dallas, 12 years ago. The sun was setting behind the hills, tinging the sky golden as Sophia ran barefoot through the fields of the stone ranch. Ethan followed, laughing, until he caught her in the old barn, where the smell of hay mixed with young skin and eternal promises. I'm going to marry you, Sophia, even if my mother disinherits me. You say that now, but what about when they pressure you? When you have to choose between me and your family? Always you. I love you. They kissed right there, with the urgency of those who feel time slipping through their fingers. It was that night she became pregnant, and it was that same week everything fell apart. Mrs. Sterling, the family matriarch, observed everything from the shadows. She already suspected the relationship, but it was upon finding a pregnancy test hidden in Sophia's room and intercepting a letter she was writing to Ethan that she decided to act. What she couldn't allow was the stone name to be tainted with common blood. She summoned Sophia for a formal meeting. She poured tea as if they were old friends, but there was venom in every word. You don't belong in our world, girl. You are a distraction. And now, with this pregnancy, if you have any sense, you will disappear before I take it upon myself to make you. Sophia tried to resist. She cried, pleaded to see Ethan, but she was forbidden. The next day, she was expelled with 2 suitcases, a threat, and a check that she tore up at the ranch gate. She returned to Austin, humiliated, carrying 3 lives in her womb that would be her strength from then on. Cut to the present. Ethan, sitting on the bed, listened to the sound of his own accelerated breathing. Everything made sense now, or almost everything. But why would his mother do something so cruel? Why hide something so essential? He got up with tear-filled eyes, grabbed his phone, but didn't dial. Instead, he walked toward the safe in the corner of the room. He opened it, and inside he found a drawer with letters. Letters addressed to him, never delivered. All signed Sophia Ramirez. A battle of matriarchs. The stone mansion had long, cold corridors, and in one of them, Sophia walked with firm steps. After the tense reception the night before, she knew she would be confronted, and it didn't take long. One of the staff discreetly whispered that Mrs. Sterling was waiting for her in the tea room. Sophia took a deep breath. She knew this moment would come, but this time, she was not a pregnant, frightened young woman. She was a poised, mature woman, with 3 sons in whom she saw every day the strength life had demanded of her. And unlike the past, she had nothing to lose now. Mrs. Sterling was seated, as impeccable as ever, with a pearl necklace Sophia remembered well. Her fingers were interlaced in her lap, and her gaze was a sheet of steel. "I see you had the nerve to return." Sophia did not reply. She sat across from her, with the calm of one who knows pain better than her own skin. "Don't delude yourself into thinking Ethan will welcome you with those boys," Mrs. Sterling said, pausing with loaded contempt before pronouncing the word boys. "He has a future, a marriage, a reputation to protect." Sophia slightly tilted her head, studying every wrinkle on the face of the woman who destroyed her past. "You took from me once, but you won't take from me again. These children are stones, whether you accept it or not, and they have the right to know who they are, even if you prefer them to disappear." Her tone was serene, but razor sharp. For the first time, Mrs. Sterling shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Control was slipping through her fingers like dry sand, and she knew it. "You should have disappeared as I asked. I disappeared. I cried alone. I gave birth alone. I raised them alone. But now I'm back, not for you or for Ethan. I came back for them, because they deserve to know the truth. And you're going to have to face what you did." Mrs. Sterling tried to maintain her composure, but her eyes were trembling. For a second, something, guilt perhaps, flickered in the depths of her pupils, but she stood up with rehearsed dignity and walked to the window. "They will never be welcomed here." Sophia also stood, with a strength born of sleepless nights, of fevers calmed with prayers, of words swallowed out of fear and love. "They don't need to be welcomed. They already belong. You just haven't understood it yet." And she walked out, without looking back, leaving behind a trail of silence that screamed louder than any argument. The unspoken bond. At breakfast the next day, the stone mansion was quieter than usual. Ethan came downstairs without his usual suit. He wore only a white shirt, sleeves rolled up to his elbows. His steps stopped when he heard laughter coming from the back garden. Laughter, actually, that he knew from somewhere. It was light, almost musical. Stepping outside, he saw the 3 boys playing soccer with one of the groundskeepers. They went with the same wild energy he remembered having as a child. But what truly caught his attention was how Liam kicked the ball with his left foot. Precise, exact, just as he had done in school. Ethan stood there, immobile, unnoticed, or so he thought, observing. At one point, Elijah fell to the ground. Noah immediately ran, worried, and helped him up. The gesture was so automatic, so protective, that a lump formed in Ethan's throat. He remembered when, as a boy, he held his younger brother's hand every time he cried. A familiar reflex. Later, in his office, he took out an old photo of himself at 5. He compared it to one Mrs. Sterling had taken of the triplets during the reception. The resemblance was absurd. The eyes, the nose, even the way they smiled sideways. His blood ran through those veins. There was starting to be no doubt. But Ethan still needed proof. He discreetly called a lab. He requested a DNA test. He bagged a glass Noah had used and submitted it under the name of a supposed employee. It was the last vestige of a man who still trusted data more than feeling. Still, something inside him was already breaking. That night, he went up to the terrace with a glass of wine. He sat and looked up at the sky, and for the first time in many years, he wept. Not as a powerful man, but as a betrayed son, a father who was perhaps robbed, and a man who now saw his own life slipping through his hands. In the darkness, he heard soft footsteps. Sophia was there, silent. He didn't see her, but he knew it was her, because only she could make the air denser without uttering a single word. "They have a lot of you," she finally said. "I'm starting to see that," he replied without turning around. "What else did they take from me, Sophia? What else did they hide from me?" She didn't answer. She only sat beside him. And the two remained in silence, looking at the same sky, laden with stars. And everything that was never said. Call to action. Would you have helped Eleanor after what she did to you? Let me know in the comments. Also, please share this video with a friend who loves incredible stories. The second betrayal. Penelope Hayes was not foolish. No matter how much Ethan tried to maintain his composure, she knew him well enough to recognize the signs, the delays, the lost glances, the prolonged silences during dinners. But what truly made her understand she was about to lose everything was a scene she witnessed from her guest room window that chilled her to the bone. Ethan kneeling down to tie Noah's shoelace, while the other two boys hugged him from behind. That was no longer a suspicion. It was a bond. It was affection. It was fatherhood. Without wasting time, Penelope hired a private investigator. She wanted more than assumptions. In less than 4 hours, the man returned with documents, school records, and even a DNA test result Ethan had secretly commissioned. The result was clear, 99.9% genetic compatibility. With the envelope in her hands, Penelope did not cry. She did not scream, she smiled. The next day, Ethan arrived at his office and found her sitting at his desk, impeccable, with the open envelope in front of her. "Congratulations, Dad," she said, crossing her legs. "They are indeed yours." Ethan swallowed hard. There was nothing left to hide. "Penelope, you don't have to explain anything to me. Let's be adults. We have a contract. We have a wedding in 3 weeks. And we have many eyes on us. This marriage was never about love, but it was always about power. And if you break this agreement now, Ethan, I swear I will destroy you. And the little school teacher too." Before he could respond, his cell phone vibrated, a notification from a popular digital magazine. As he opened it, the world seemed to spin. "Scandal among the stones. Ex-girlfriend. Appears with children and intimate photos from the past. Who is the woman threatening one of Mexico's most powerful weddings?" The article was filled with old photos. One showed Ethan and Sophia kissing in the ranch barn. Another, her pregnant, still a teenager, in front of a rural school. Photos that should never have seen the light of day. Ethan felt rage rise in him like slow fire. He looked at Penelope. "You did this. I only protected what's mine. Don't you understand yet that you won't escape me?" But what Penelope didn't know was that Ethan was no longer the man who kept silent. Fatherhood didn't just touch him. It transformed him. And as the storm exploded in the press and on social media, Sophia received the news on her cell phone screen, trembling, with her sleeping children beside her. She read the headlines, saw the photos, and thought the past had finally caught up with her. Not to heal her, but to destroy her again. The public confession. The silence of the early morning enveloped the stone mansion like a dense spider web. Ethan was in his office, but his eyes were not reading the contracts on the desk. They were reading the subtext of his own life. The image of Sophia humiliated in the tabloids, the eyes of his children reflecting disappointment and fear. All of it weighed more than any inheritance. That's when he decided. He took the envelope with the DNA result, a copy of the published article, and Sophia's old letter he had found days earlier. He walked up the stairs with firm steps and entered Mrs. Sterling's room without knocking. She was sitting in front of the mirror, removing her pearl earrings, when she saw him enter, and she knew instantly that he was not the same Ethan. "You knew," he said in a steady voice. "You always knew, and you lied to me. You hid the letters. You made me believe she had abandoned me. You stole a family from me." Mrs. Sterling stood up, her face paling. "I did what was best for you. That girl would have ruined your life, tied you to a small destiny. Small. You tied me to an empty castle, surrounded by money and loneliness. You took away the only thing that truly made me smile. You didn't protect my future, Mom. You destroyed it." The words echoed in the walls. Heavy, irrecoverable words. For the first time, Mrs. Sterling fell silent, but Ethan didn't stop. "You can keep hiding behind your last name, but I won't. I'm going to live my truth, and my truth has a name. Sophia. And 3 wonderful sons I will never leave alone again." "Are you going to throw everything away for her?" "No, I'm taking back what you tried to erase." The next morning, Ethan showed up unannounced at the press conference Penelope had organized about the wedding of the year. Before the cameras, the partners, the elite, and a Penelope with a frozen smile, he took a deep breath and said, "This wedding is canceled, and for those who are selling lies to the press, here is the truth. I am a father, and it is the most important thing that has ever happened to me." Penelope tried to react, but the flashes were all focused on him. And in that instant, Ethan was no longer the heir. He was no longer the prisoner. He was a father. He was a man. He was free. Too late. The article had been cruel. It wasn't enough to expose their intimate history. The tabloids even insinuated that Sophia had used her children to try to infiltrate the Stone family. The old photos, the poisonous headlines, the social media comments, it all hurt. But what hurt the most was Ethan's silence. He had disappeared. Since the press conference, not a message, not a call, not an explanation. Sophia watched her sleeping children huddled together on the motel bed. They had cried. They didn't understand why the school called to say they could no longer accept the public exposure. They didn't know why their classmates stopped talking to them, but Sophia did. Sitting on the edge of the bed, silent tears falling, she made a decision that broke her inside. She would leave, just like the first time. Only now, she wasn't running from Ethan. She was running from the fear of being hurt again. The next morning, she woke the children with a fake smile and packed bags. "We're going on a new trip, my loves, to a place where no one knows our names." Liam, the most sensitive, frowned. "What about Dad?" She froze. She took a deep breath. "Dad is busy now, but he will always be in your hearts." As she called a taxi to the airport across town, Ethan finally dialed her number. Too late. The phone rang. No answer. Desperate, he rushed to the motel, where the receptionist only said, "Ms. Sophia Ramirez left less than an hour ago, with 3 children." The sense of déjà vu hit Ethan like a punch. Again. She was leaving. And this time, he couldn't blame anyone but himself. He raced to his car. He drove like a maniac to the airport. He skidded to a stop at the curb. He ran through the corridors as if his life depended on it. And it did. He asked for her at every counter, at every gate. And then, in the distance, he saw them crossing the security checkpoint. Sophia turned for a second, and their eyes met. It was only an instant. She hesitated. The children looked at him too, but then the system called for boarding, and she turned her face away. This time, it was she who did not return. Ethan screamed her name. He tried to run toward the boarding area, but it was too late. The doors closed, and with them, his heart also closed. A new beginning. The days that followed were made of emptiness. The mansion, once filled with obligations, guests, and appointments, was now silent. Ethan didn't answer calls, didn't check emails, didn't leave. He only walked from room to room, as if searching for something he no longer knew where to find. In the living room, the toys the children had forgotten remained on the sofa. A little red car, a children's book, a doll with a broken ear. Small things, but now they weighed tons. Ethan touched them as if they were sacred artifacts, as if each object carried the last traces of their presence. He no longer wept as before. Now it was a dry, silent weeping, made of burning memories. He looked out at the terrace and remembered Sophia smiling under the sunset, her hand brushing his, that look that said everything without saying anything. On the morning of the fourth day, without telling anyone, he took his car and drove to the family's old, abandoned ranch. It was there that he and Sophia used to meet in secret, there where they fell in love, where they dreamed, where they believed the world fit in each other's arms. Arriving, he found the gates rusty, the weeds tall, but the essence of the place still pulsed. He walked among the trees he knew by heart. Wild sunflowers still grew in the corner of the field, like a memory that time failed to erase. He entered the old barn, the smell of wood, hay, and history enveloping him like a hug. There, years ago, he had promised eternal love. There, he had watched her dance barefoot, laughing, free, and there she had also cried upon learning that his mother would never accept them. Ethan knelt on the dirt floor, running his hands over his eyes. Everything he was now was here, a man in pieces, surrounded by the ghosts of a life he almost had, and almost lost forever. He took out the letter Sophia had handed him before leaving. Reading those words now was torture and redemption at the same time. She had trusted him, and he had acted too late. "Forgive me, Sophia," he whispered, his voice broken. "Forgive me for not looking for you sooner, for letting fear be bigger than love." The wind blew through the barn cracks, lifting fine dust, as if time itself were listening. There, among ruins and memories, Ethan found a certainty. He couldn't let it end like this. If there was still a chance, however small, he would fight. For the first time in days, he stood up with purpose. And when he left the barn, he didn't take only memories, but a promise. He would bring Sophia and his children back, even if he had to cross the world to do it. The sunflower's vow, the days following the re-encounter in the sunflower field, were unlike anything Sophia had ever experienced. For the first time, she woke up without fear of the future. There was a new rhythm to her routine, one that included Ethan making breakfast with the children, laughing at Noah's antics, and helping Liam with his schoolwork. They moved to a cozy house in the quiet part of the city. It wasn't a mansion, but it was a home. Ethan had left the stone mansion, determined to build something new with Sophia, something real, something just for the two of them. Sophia, for her part, returned to teaching. Her image had been cleared, thanks to a public retraction Ethan made on national television. He owned his mistakes, exposed the manipulations, and apologized to the woman he had once loved in secret. Now, he loved her in plain sight. The children flourished with their father's presence. Each, in their own way, found the missing piece in Ethan's love. Noah, who was once restless, was now calmer. Elijah smiled more, and Liam, ever sensitive, slept hugging a teddy bear Ethan gave him, wearing a miniature shirt just like his father's. But the biggest surprise came from where Sophia least expected it. One cloudy afternoon, Mrs. Sterling appeared at the door of the new house. She was alone, her face marked not only by age, but by the weight of her decisions. She held a small wooden box in her hands. Sophia hesitated, but opened the door. "I didn't come to justify myself," Mrs. Sterling said, her voice trembling. "I came to ask for forgiveness. Of you, of Ethan, of my grandchildren. I destroyed more than a love. I destroyed a family. And now I don't want to leave this world without trying to mend a little of what I broke." Sophia listened in silence. She didn't smile, but she didn't deny her entry either. In the living room, Mrs. Sterling opened the box. There were letters Sophia never knew she had written, photos of her young self with Ethan, and a necklace with a locket she thought she had lost. "I kept everything, out of fear, out of arrogance, out of a misunderstood love for my son. But now I understand that true love is letting go. And I ask you, allow me at least to meet the boys." Sophia looked at her. There was no trust yet, but there was empathy and a bit of compassion. "They have the right to know their grandmother, but the woman you show them is your choice." From that day on, little by little, a new story began to be written. A story where the ghosts of the past gave way to bridges, where pride gave space to healing, and where love finally stopped bleeding to flourish. The sky was clear, the wind was soft, and the sunflower field looked hand-painted by God. It was almost incredible how that place, which was once the scene of bitter goodbyes, now transformed into the sweetest stage of all. A year had passed since the re-encounter, and right there in that golden field, love was waiting for its "I do." The chairs were arranged in simple rows, adorned with white ribbons and wildflowers. Friends, family, and children from the community occupied the seats, with smiles on their faces and tears in their eyes. It was more than a wedding. It was a celebration of life that refused to surrender, of hope that refused to die. At the altar, Ethan stood, dressed in a light suit, his hair slightly windswept. But what drew the most attention was his gaze, a look filled with tenderness, healed guilt, and new promises. The eyes of a man who learned to love not with grandiosity, but with presence. And then she appeared. Sophia walked barefoot down the dirt aisle between the sunflowers. The dress was light, flowing, with lace details that seemed lovingly drawn. Her hair was pulled back in a loose bun. Her face was serene. But the most exciting part was who walked with her: Liam, Elijah, and Noah, one on each side, holding her hand. All three wore light clothes, with little suspenders, and smiles as wide as the sky. They weren't just escorting their mother down the aisle. They were giving her away, and giving themselves away with her to something greater. When Sophia arrived in front of Ethan, there was a second of silence. A different silence. It wasn't absence. It was reverence. As if the universe held its breath to witness that moment. "Are you sure?" she whispered, a playful glint in her eyes. "I'm more sure of you than I am of myself," he replied, his eyes filled with tears. The officiant barely managed to finish the ceremony before the tears started falling. When Ethan said, "I do," his voice cracked. When Sophia answered, the whole field seemed to sigh. And when they kissed, the children shouted in unison, "Long live Mom! Long live Dad!" The party was made of dancing, folk music, and sincere laughter. Mrs. Sterling even appeared for a moment, shyly sitting in the back, with a sunflower in her hands. It was the highest forgiveness she knew how to offer. And for now, it was enough. As evening fell, with their feet bare, and their children asleep on a rug under the old barn tree, Sophia leaned into Ethan's lap. He stroked her hair in silence. "Everything I lost is here now," he said. She smiled. "And everything I dreamed of learned to wait." And there, between the roots of the past and the flowers of the future, love did not find its end, but the beginning it always deserved. Final call to action. I invite you to leave your opinion on this incredible story in the comments. What was the most significant moment of redemption for you? If you liked it, share it, and subscribe to the channel to support our work. Another story is appearing on your screen that will probably move you just as much. Don't miss it. Welcome back to the channel. If you love stories of ultimate justice and brilliant strategy, subscribe right now. Don't forget to like this video to fuel more content like this. The buzz of betrayal. It wasn't a sound, it was a vibration. The 2:17 a.m. notification was the faint buzz of a mosquito's wing against the Carrara marble of the bedside table. In the suffocating, climate-controlled silence of their Tribeca penthouse, New York City, Alexandra Alex Sterling lay wide awake. 6 months pregnant, she watched the second burner phone, the one her husband, Marcus Thorne, CEO of Thorne Private Capital, claimed was only for his European clients. Illuminate. The screen was black, but the text preview glowed with poisonous intimacy. Sienna, the Ritz, 9 p.m. Don't be late. In that instant, the expensive silence of her life, bought with a $50 million condo on Billionaire's Row, became a tomb. For the last 3 years, Alex had considered this silence peace. Now, it felt like a vacuum stealing the air from her lungs. The golden cage. Alex moved into her cavernous walk-in closet, a space larger than her entire first apartment in Boston. On one side, Marcus's custom-tailored suits, Brunello Cucinelli, Savile Row, stood like a disciplined army. Her own wardrobe, a vibrant collection of haute couture he had personally selected, faced his, a stunning explosion of Dior and Chanel. He called her his exotic bird, and this was her golden cage. She gently touched her 6-month pregnant belly. This child, his heir, was supposed to be the final, perfect piece of their perfect life. But the joy had curdled into a cold, heavy knot in her stomach. The betrayal hadn't arrived suddenly. It was a slow poison that seeped into the foundation of their marriage. Office nights that bled into mornings. Urgent business trips that left him faintly smelling of a perfume that wasn't hers. Portrait of a Lady by Frédéric Malle. Too sophisticated. Too deliberate. The way he guarded his phone. Once open, now a dark secret. Marcus was a creature of habit and towering arrogance. That combination, Alex realized, would be his undoing. He believed he was too clever to be caught, and that she was too docile, too in love, to even suspect. The awakening of the strategist. The calendar notification was a mistake, a hilariously amateur error for a man of his stature. Sienna. The Ritz, 9 p.m. The name was elegant, expensive. Alex's first instinct was to scream, to shatter the placid surface of their lives. But a deeper, colder instinct took hold, an instinct she thought she'd buried forever. Before she was Alexandra Thorne, society wife and aspiring philanthropist, she was Alexandra Alex Ruiz, one of Washington, D.C.'s most ruthless opposition researchers. Her job wasn't accounting. It was dismantling. She tracked real money, dark money, exposing the rot buried under layers of complex agreements. She found the offshore account that ended a senator's career. She had given it all up for Marcus, exhausted and tired of the fight. He promised her a life of peace. Now, looking at that glowing screen, she realized her old life hadn't died. It had merely been dormant. That night, she didn't sleep. She retrieved her encrypted laptop, a relic Marcus found endearingly paranoid, and started to dig. Not into his phone, but into his money. Money never lay. His finances were an impenetrable maze of shell corporations and offshore trusts. For anyone else, yes. For Alex, it was a language she spoke fluently. His biggest weapon, his supreme arrogance, was now hers. He never imagined she possessed the skill to truly understand, much less navigate, the system he'd created. Before we get into the details of her investigation, comment your thoughts below. If you were Alex, would you expose him publicly right away, or plan a private revenge? Share your strategy. The blueprint of destruction. For weeks, Alex spent her nights mapping his empire while he slept or dined with his mistress. A ghost in the machine, she traced wire transfers, analyzed credit card statements, and cross-referenced expense reports. Sienna LaRue. The name appeared repeatedly. A condo in Miami, paid for by a Gibraltar SLU, linked directly to Marcus. A Black Centurion Amex card, accumulating charges at high-end hotels globally. Flights mirroring his own, but always one row behind. He wasn't just having an affair. He was funding a parallel life. The pain was immense, but the strategist in her was detached. The pain was data. It drove her. Then came the real catalyst. Last Tuesday, Marcus was in his home office skiff, a soundproof room for delicate negotiations. Alex was passing by when she heard his voice, sharp and stripped of its charm. The prenuptial agreement is ironclad, Kenji. She walks away with $1 million. That's it. Kenji Tanaka, Marcus's famously ruthless attorney. Alex froze. Her blood turned to ice. But the pregnancy complicates things, Marcus continued, his tone like flint. The optics are awful. We can't have a messy public divorce. So we control the narrative. We build a case, unstable, hormonal, emotionally erratic. We'll order a psychological evaluation. We'll prove she is an unfit mother. Unfit mother. The phrase hit her like a physical blow. He was going to take her son. Once we have the leverage of the child, she'll fold. Kenji's voice drawled through the speaker. She'll accept the deal and disappear. Supervised visits, twice a year. Alex bit down on her hand to stifle the sob of incandescent rage. He wasn't just planning to leave her. He was planning to erase her and use her child as a weapon. In that moment, the heartbroken wife died. The strategist was reborn, armed with a mother's fury. He wanted to leave her with nothing. She would leave him with less. Operation Bonaparte. Alex went to her office and locked the door. This was no longer about heartbreak. This was war. She opened Marcus's financial maps. She saw the load-bearing walls, the pressure points, the keystone holding up the great arch of his fortune. She needed an ally, her brother, David Ruiz. The family's black sheep, a cybersecurity genius who saw the world in code. He'd always hated Marcus, calling him a charismatic sociopath. She texted a single message to the burner phone's only saved number. Operation Bonaparte. Are you in? A childhood code for an audacious high-stakes plan. The answer arrived in less than 30 seconds. For you, Caro, I'd burn the internet. Send coordinates. The target date. 2 weeks later. When Marcus was scheduled to fly to his secluded villa in the Hamptons for a solo wellness retreat. The flight records showed a second ticket. He and Sienna would be sleeping. Alex would be working. For 14 days, Alex played the devoted, glowing pregnant wife. She feigned cravings, discussed nursery colors, and smiled warmly every time Marcus touched her stomach. Every smile was a lie. She methodically gathered the vital keys, security protocols for private banking portals in Geneva and the Cayman Islands, the specific vocal authentication phrases for his Swiss broker, and the seed phrases for his crypto cold storage, which she found on a USB stick hidden inside a hollowed-out copy of Machiavelli's The Prince. The irony was delicious. David set up a chain of VPNs and prepared her clean slate package. A new identity, Anna Millen, a Portuguese passport, and a network of untraceable bank accounts. He was her digital ghost maker. The night before Marcus left, he gave her a gift, a ridiculously large diamond necklace, for the most beautiful mother-to-be in the world. Alex let him clasp it around her neck. "I'll miss you," she whispered, meeting his gaze in the mirror. The woman in the reflection was a stranger, a serene smile, and eyes as cold as the diamonds on her throat. The demolition Marcus's jet departed Teterboro at 10:05 p.m. Alex watched the icon move slowly across the flight tracker until it became a speck over the Atlantic. She walked to the silent, opulent walk-in closet and unclasped the diamond necklace. She didn't return it to its velvet box. She dropped it onto the thick carpet. It was a shackle. She wouldn't wear it anymore. Her war room was the home office. The battle would last approximately 8 hours, the window between Marcus falling asleep mid-flight and his private bank in Geneva opening for business. She initiated a secure, end-to-end encrypted call to David. "Phase 1, you green?" "Green across the board," David confirmed. "I'm inside the Thorn Capital network infrastructure now." He left the key under the mat. The smart home integration. "I can monitor every data packet. If a silent alarm triggers, I'll kill it before it even thinks about dialing." The strategy was a cascade, designed for velocity and devastation. She would initiate a synchronized, multi-front financial collapse. Target 1, brokerage accounts, Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs. To access the accounts, she needed the 2FA code sent to Marcus's primary phone. now 35,000 feet in the air, set to airplane mode. David, I'm logging into Morgan Stanley. I need you to intercept the 2FA. Ready now. Click. Sent. Got it, David had said. A tense 4-second pause. The code is 7934S92. Access granted. Alex didn't liquidate everything at once. That would trigger alerts. Instead, she initiated a series of strategically blocked trades. Highly liquid blue-chip positions were sold in carefully spaced transactions, immediately converting to cash. The critical step, moving the money. She funneled the funds through 3 of Marcus's own forgotten shell corporations that she had silently taken control of before finally landing the cash in its ultimate destination. A new corporate account in a Liechtenstein private bank, under the name Helvetia Strategic Solutions, an entity controlled by Anna Millen. She repeated the exact process with the Goldman Sachs account. The numbers in the Liechtenstein account climbed at an astonishing rate. Target 2. Offshore strongholds. Pictet Group, Geneva. This was the most difficult. Pictet required vocal authentication. You need to give me your best, Marcus, David said, a trace of dark humor in his voice. Alex was ready. She'd spent weeks synthesizing a passable voice print. She dialed Pictet's private banking hotline. And now for vocal authentication. Please state the phrase, "The mountain air is the clearest." Alex clicked a button. The digitally recreated voice of Marcus Thorne stated the phrase. A long, agonizing silence followed. Verification successful, the banker stated. How may we direct your funds, Mr. Thorne? Alex quickly dictated transfer instructions, moving the $200 million balance to the same Liechtenstein account. Target 3, the Apocalypse Insurance. The cold storage crypto. David guided her through it. Bitcoin, Ethereum, all transferred to a single, anonymous wallet. Value, $80 million. Final target, the insult. 6 a.m. Her window was closing. She logged into their joint checking account. Balance, $7,256. She emptied it to the last cent. Then she paused. She allowed herself a grim smile. She initiated one final transfer, a deposit into the same joint account. Exactly $100. She leaned back, her body shaking. Final tally, over $600 million liquidated and transferred. It's done. Phase 1 is complete, David whispered. Jesus, Caro, I'm looking at the logs. It's a digital guillotine. You didn't just steal him blind, you erased him. Phase 2, she said. The data, Marcus's internal server. It contained his entire life, including the hidden, encrypted partition labeled Contingency, his blackmail folder. I'm initiating the transfer to the secure cloud, David confirmed. Once finished, I'll wipe the source drive. Department of Defense level sanitation. Not a bite will survive. As the data flowed, Alex moved through the house. She took no luxury item, no jewelry, no art. She packed one simple suitcase, the burner phones, her new passport, the crypto ledger, and the tools of the life she would live after. She walked into the master bath and retrieved the positive pregnancy test from the drawer. She placed it gently on his pillow. Her phone buzzed. David's message. Download complete. Wiping drive now. You have to leave, Caro. Now. Alex descended the grand staircase for the last time. In the foyer, she stopped. She took the house key from her purse and placed it on the marble table beneath their wedding portrait. Then she walked out the front door, leaving it unlocked. Her undetectable rental car, reserved under a false name, was waiting at the end of the long driveway. The sun was rising. It was the first day of her new life, and the last day of Marcus Thorne's. He just didn't know it yet. The collapse, Marcus Thorne woke to the voice of a silky smooth flight attendant offering a hot towel as they descended into the Hamptons. He felt invincible. The first hint of trouble was subtle. As he settled into the plush car, he pulled out his Amex Centurion to tip the concierge. "My apologies, Mr. Thorne," the man said politely. "It's been declined." Marcus stared. Declined. Impossible. Try again. Same result. He pulled out another card. A J.P. Morgan Reserve. Declined. Sienna watched, a touch of concern on her face. "Everything all right, darling?" "It's nothing," Marcus snapped. Something cold had settled under his skin. He spent the ride home checking his banking apps. "Invalid credentials. Please contact customer service." When he finally reached his private banker at Morgan Stanley, the voice on the other end was tight and formal. "Miguel, I was expecting your call." "David, what the hell is going on?" Marcus snapped. "Mr. Thorne," the banker said clinically, "a full liquidation of your portfolio was initiated approximately at 11 p.m. last night. All assets were converted to cash and wired out. As of 3:45 a.m. this morning, your account balance with us is zero. Zero." The word tasted strange. "The same pattern was detected at Goldman," David said quietly. "And I've just received alerts from Geneva and the Cayman Islands. Your offshore accounts have been emptied." Marcus's phone slipped from his fingers. This wasn't a hack. This was surgical. This was personal. "Alex, no, impossible. Sweet, docile Alex." He called Kenji Tanaka. "Kenji, it's gone. All of it." "It has to be her," Marcus whispered. "She had a life before me. Opposition research. Forensics." Kenji's breath caught. "Jesus Christ, Marcus, that's not a side hustle, that's a weapon." Hours later, Kenji called back from the penthouse. "I'm in the penthouse, Marcus. The police are here. There is no forced entry. But she is gone. The server in the basement has been wiped. Professionally. Whatever was on it, Marcus, is gone. Or rather, someone else has it now." "And in the bedroom?" Marcus choked out. "She left something on your pillow." Kenji paused. A positive pregnancy test. A message. She wasn't just taking the money. She was taking his son. His heir. "Find her," Marcus hissed, his voice venomous. "I don't care what it costs. Use everything. I want Alexandra Ruiz found." The hunt had begun, but Alexandra Ruiz no longer existed. The aftermath. Justice is served 1 week later. A woman named Anna Millen, visibly pregnant, stepped off a train in Lisbon, Portugal. Her bright hair was cut and dyed a mousy brown. She checked into a modest, prepaid apartment overlooking the Tagus River. That night, she received an encrypted message from David. "They're good, Caro. Kenji's team is sharp. They tracked the money flow. They found the Liechtenstein account. They're moving to freeze it." Anna Millen, a.k.a. Alex Ruiz, allowed a small, cold smile to touch her lips. She typed her reply. "I know. I hoped they would. How much was in it when they froze it?" David's answer, "About $5 million. Anna sipped her herbal tea. "Good. That was the bait. The rest is already in cold storage and gold bullion, in a vault in Zurich. Let them keep the $5 million. It's their finder's fee." She didn't stop there. She opened her new encrypted laptop and the 800-gigabyte contingency file. She didn't send it to the press. That was messy. Her way was surgical. She anonymized a single file. Proof of Marcus's specific insider trading on a recent corporate deal. She sent it to the SEC's dedicated whistleblower portal. She took another file. Proof of a Spanish senator's long-term affair, financed by a Thorne Capital slush fund. She sent it directly to the senator's wife, a woman known for being far more ruthless than her husband. And finally, she sent the files detailing Marcus's plans to leverage his own partners out of the new fund, anonymously, to the partners themselves. She closed the laptop. The storm had been unleashed. It wasn't about the money. It was about ensuring that man could never again use his power to threaten her or her child. Final significant ending. 3 months later, Anna Millen, sat on a small balcony in Lisbon, the bright Portuguese sun warming her face. She held her newborn son, Leo. She was reading the international news on her tablet. Marcus Thorne, indicted on multiple counts of securities fraud. Senator. Redacted. Quietly resigns, citing family matters. Thorne Capital Partners. Files for bankruptcy after internal coup. She looked down at the sleeping baby in her arms. "It's just us now, little one," she whispered. It was never about revenge. It was about resilience. It was about reclaiming the dignity he had tried to take from her. She had been a victim. She became a survivor. Now, at last, she was free. Call to action. What do you think of Alex's plan? Do you believe Marcus Thorne will get what he deserves in court? If Alex's story of reclaiming her power with sheer intelligence resonated with you, please like and share this tale with someone who needs a reminder of their own strength. Leave a comment below. What do you think was Marcus's biggest mistake? Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of justice and second chances. The Hunter and the Ghost. Operation Bonaparte, Phase 3. Did you love Part 1? Make sure you've hit subscribe and like this video to catch the moment Marcus finally finds his ghost, the fury of the fallen king. It was not the $600 million loss that truly broke Marcus Thorne. It was the utter humiliation. He was a king stripped naked in the public square. His company, his reputation, his leverage, all gone, thanks to the woman he dismissed as docile. Marcus was now marooned in a rented apartment in Miami, a pale, sweat-soaked echo of the titan who once commanded Wall Street. His remaining wealth was tied up in legal fees and dwindling assets. He was out on bail, facing multiple federal charges, but all of that was secondary. His singular obsession was Leo, his son, and the woman who had dared to take him. "I need her located, Kenji," Marcus snarled into the phone, his voice raw. "Forget the money. Forget the charges. I want a trace on the child." Kenji Tanaka, now Marcus's only remaining link to power, looked exhausted. "We hit a brick wall, Marcus. Anna Millen is a perfect ghost. The passport is real, issued through legitimate channels in Portugal. The financial trail of the $5 million she left behind was a dead end. It bounced through 10 different countries before dissolving." "What about the crypto?" Marcus demanded. "Untraceable. She didn't use a centralized exchange. She used David Ruiz, the brother. The kid's a genius, Marcus. He erased the ledger and used multiple mixers. That money is locked in cold storage, probably offshore." Marcus slammed his fist on the glass desk. "I don't care about David. I care about Alex. She made a mistake. Everyone makes a mistake. She has a tell. Find it." "What do you think is Alex's tell? What is the one thing Marcus knows about her that he could use against her? Leave your thoughts in the comments below." The thin thread. Marcus remembered a conversation from years ago, early in their courtship. Alex had mentioned a deep, almost religious connection to the Geronimos Monastery in Lisbon, a place her mother had always dreamed of visiting. A place of quiet contemplation, she'd called it. Sentimental nonsense, he'd thought then. Now, it was the thinnest, most desperate thread he had left. "Kenji," Marcus said, a manic clarity in his voice. "I want a private investigator on the ground in Lisbon. Someone subtle. They need to canvass 3 places: the waterfront area, the Geronimos Monastery, and the neighborhood surrounding the University of Lisbon. Check the local nurseries, the high-end organic markets." She was always obsessed with that. It was a shot in the dark, based on emotional residue and old habits. But it was the only shot he had. The quiet life. 3 months passed. Anna Millan had settled into a quiet rhythm. She had enrolled in online university courses, embracing the intellectual challenges of her old life. Leo was thriving. The money she'd secured meant she didn't have to work, allowing her to devote herself fully to her son. Yet, Alex was never truly at peace. every time a shadow passed the window or a phone rang with an unknown number. The strategist in her tensed. She knew Marcus wasn't the type to simply disappear. He would hunt. One Tuesday morning, Alex was pushing Leo in a stroller near the Jardim da Estrela, a beautiful, peaceful park. She was distracted, reviewing an article on her tablet about Marcus's impending arraignment. Suddenly, a tall, nondescript man with sharp eyes, holding a local newspaper, walked past her and muttered a single, chilling word in English. Ruiz. Alex's heart seized. She didn't look up. She didn't slow down. She continued pushing the stroller, her hands steady, her mind racing. He found me. The PI was good. He hadn't confronted her. He had simply planted the seed of fear, confirming his presence. Alex immediately initiated her pre-planned emergency protocol. She needed to move, and she needed David. The trap is sprung. Alex found a secure internet connection at a small cafe and sent a coded message to David. Caro, the bird is flying. Initiating Project Phoenix. Project Phoenix was the financial and physical escape plan she had designed if Marcus ever got too close. It involved a staged withdrawal of a large sum of money from her new Portuguese bank account to create a false trail. David replied within minutes. Got it. Setting fire to the digital forest now. The safe house is prepped. But Caro, he's going to come for you. He won't use the law anymore. He'll use muscle. Alex knew this was true. Marcus didn't want justice. He wanted his property back. 2 days later, she staged her disappearance perfectly. She left her apartment door slightly ajar, a half-packed suitcase visible, and her laptop open to a flight booking for Iceland. She wanted to project panic and immediate flight. She didn't go to the airport. She went to the only safe house David trusted, a remote, almost forgotten family cabin high in the Picos de Europa mountains in northern Spain, a place so cut off from the modern world that a secure VPN connection was virtually impossible. The final showdown, Marcus and 2 heavy-set men, retained through a sketchy contact in his old hedge fund days, landed in Lisbon less than 24 hours after Alex's staged escape. The PI led them straight to the empty apartment. When Marcus saw the flight screen open to Reykjavik, a triumphant grin spread across his face. Idiot! She thinks she can hide in the Arctic. They took the first flight to Iceland. Marcus was so consumed by his rage and certainty that he never checked the apartment for a second trail. Meanwhile, Alex and Leo were settled into the freezing, but beautiful, Spanish cabin. The isolation was a relief, but also a prison. 3 days later, David called. Marcus is in Iceland, searching, he whispered over the secure line. But one of his goons did something stupid. He left a financial trail on a cash withdrawal in Santander, Spain, before leaving for the airport. Marcus has to be back in Spain. He figured out the Iceland thing was a ruse. He's coming, Alex murmured, rocking Leo gently. Caro, you have to leave now. He's close. I think he's heading for the Picos. Alex's breath hitched. Only David knew about this place. Marcus must have tortured the information out of Kenji or someone else in the old circle. I can't leave now, Alex whispered. The nearest town is 2 hours away, and I have Leo. Then you have to be ready, David pleaded. Alex hung up. She looked around the rugged, ancient cabin. There was no running away left. She was an opposition researcher, a dismantler. It was time to build a final trap. She quickly moved a heavy wooden chest across the front door. She took the car keys and tossed them into the deep, frozen well outside the cabin. She pulled a single item from her suitcase, not a weapon, but the USB drive containing Marcus's entire contingency file. The price of arrogance. It was nearly midnight when a set of headlights cut through the swirling snow. 2 vehicles, Marcus and his muscle. Alex stood in the cold kitchen, holding Leo close in a carrier against her chest. She took a deep breath, her maternal terror hardening into steel. Marcus walked up to the cabin door, kicking it violently. "Alex, I know you're in there! Give me my son!" The door groaned but held. "It's over, Marcus," Alex shouted back. "You lost. All your power is gone." "I still have the power to take what's mine," he yelled. "Give me Leo and I'll let you go, with your $1 million and your pathetic dignity. Fight me, and I'll have you declared insane, and you will never see him again." Alex walked to the window and placed her hand on the glass. "You see this USB drive, Marcus?" she called out, holding the little black stick up to the light. "This is your life. Every secret, every corrupt politician, every offshore account. It's all right here." Marcus froze. He knew the drive was the real power. "What do you want?" "I want you to leave, right now. You never contact me or Leo again. You plead guilty to your fraud charges, and you tell everyone I was the unstable one. The story ends with me getting nothing. And if I refuse?" "If you refuse, I press a button on this encrypted terminal," she said, tapping the keys of her laptop. "And every newspaper in the world gets every single file. You won't just go to prison, Marcus. You'll go to solitary for the rest of your life." Marcus looked from the USB drive to the locked door, his face contorting in pure, tutuab, impotent fury. He was cornered. He had lost. The powerful Marcus Thorne had been outsmarted by a woman he underestimated. He spat on the ground. "This isn't over, Alex." "It is," she said softly, but loud enough for him to hear. "I took your empire, Marcus. You taught me how. And now, you'll never see your son again." He turned and got into the car, his two hired thugs following. The sound of the engine fading into the snowy, silent mountains was the sweetest sound Alex had ever heard. The meaningful conclusion. Alex and Leo stayed in the cabin for another week before David came for them. Marcus Thorne was arrested 2 days later when he returned to his lawyer's office, the legal process having finally caught up to him. He never mentioned the USB drive again. 2 years later, Alex had officially changed her name to Anna Milan. She and Leo lived a comfortable, quiet life in a small town in southern France. Marcus was serving a significant sentence in a high-security prison. Holding Leo's hand as they walked through a sun-drenched market, Alex didn't regret the price she paid for her freedom. She looked at her son, a symbol of the strength she found when everything was taken away. The true lesson of the golden cage wasn't that money corrupts, but that the power of love and self-respect is the only fortress a person truly needs. Call to action. That was intense. Did Alex make the right call in the final confrontation? Tell us your favorite part of Operation Bonaparte in the comments. Like this video and subscribe to join our community for more thrilling tales of justice. The Phoenix Rises. An epilogue on new beginnings. Thank you so much for following Operation Bonaparte. This is the final chapter, but the story is far from over. Show your love for Alex by hitting like and subscribing for the next thrilling series. The quiet after the storm. 5 years after the dramatic showdown in the Picos de Europa, the name Marcus Thorne was barely a whisper in the financial world. He was serving a 15-year sentence in a minimum security facility in upstate New York, a broken man whose only occasional victory was winning a game of chess in the prison yard. He had been stripped of everything: his assets, his reputation, and his right to appeal for custody of his son, Leo. Meanwhile, Anna Milan and Leo were flourishing in San Sebastian, Spain. Alex had chosen this vibrant coastal city for its perfect blend of sophistication and relative anonymity. She had reinvested a significant portion of the secured funds into a diverse, low-risk portfolio managed by a discreet wealth firm in Zurich. She was financially secure for life, but Alex was not content to merely exist. The 5 years had been a journey of transformation. She shed the last remnants of the fearful, trapped wife. The ruthless strategist had merged with a calm, deeply intelligent woman focused on ethical investment and motherhood. The launch of The Lighthouse, Alex decided to use her unique skills, the forensic accounting combined with opposition research, for good. She launched a private, highly secretive consulting firm named The Lighthouse. Its mission: to help whistleblowers and victims of white-collar crime navigate the complex financial mazes created by powerful figures like Marcus. She never took a salary. The firm was funded by the interest from her own reserves, operating purely to expose corruption. David Ruiz was her silent technical partner, continuing to run interference from his loft in Barcelona, now a celebrated white-hat hacker focused on digital defense. One crisp autumn morning, David called. "Caro, I have a new file for the Lighthouse. You won't believe this. It's an acquisition target from Thorn Capital, Marcus's old firm. They're trying to hide the money through the same kind of Gibraltar shell you used years ago." Alex, now sitting in a sunlit office overlooking La Concha Bay, smiled faintly. Poor corporate security. They never learn, do they? Send it over, David. Let's shine a light on them. If you had the power to run a firm like the Lighthouse, what kind of corruption would you focus on dismantling first? Political bribery or financial fraud? Let us know in the comments. The final loose end, the only remaining loose end, was Sienna LaRue, the former mistress. Alex had long since moved past the anger, viewing Sienna as merely a symptom of Marcus's ego. But one day, while scrolling through a list of new clients referred to the Lighthouse, a name jumped out. Sienna LaRue. Alex hesitated for only a second before accepting the secure call. Sienna's face appeared on the screen, drawn, tired, and aged far beyond her years. "Ms. Milan, I know you won't believe me, but I didn't know about the baby, or the prenup. He always told me he was going to leave her eventually." Sienna's voice cracked. "He took everything from me too." Sienna explained that Marcus had used her identity, and her own small inheritance, to purchase a lavish condo, which was immediately seized by the U.S. government as part of his forfeited assets. She was left penniless and facing legal trouble for tax evasion linked to his schemes. Alex listened patiently. "Sienna," Alex said, her voice calm and firm, "I can't undo the government's seizures, but I can help you untangle your name from his corporate fraud. The Lighthouse will take your case pro bono. Not for you, but because Marcus Thorn must not be allowed to leave any victims behind." The look of profound gratitude on Sienna's face was all the closure Alex needed. It was not vengeance that brought peace, but the choice to stop the cycle of victimization. An enduring legacy. One evening, Alex was tucking Leo, now a bright, curious 6-year-old, into bed. He looked up at her with Marcus's piercing blue eyes, but with a kindness that was all her own. "Mommy?" Leo asked. "Why did we move here, away from New York?" Alex smiled, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Because, my love, sometimes people build beautiful, but very fragile, cages. And we are not meant to be caged, we are meant to be free." She touched the scar of a memory, the 2:17 a.m. buzz of the burner phone. It had been the catalyst for the greatest battle of her life, a battle that she won not with physical strength, but with her formidable intellect and the fierce, protective love of a mother. Alexandra Sterling had been trapped by love. Anna Millen was liberated by knowledge. The greatest treasure she had stolen from Marcus Thorn was not the $600 million, but the power of her own mind. That was the true and enduring legacy of Operation Bonaparte. Thank you for reading the final chapter of Operation Bonaparte. If this story of justice and female empowerment inspired you, please like this video, share it, and comment below with your biggest takeaway. Don't forget to subscribe for more unforgettable stories.